Why we feel drained during or after social gatherings, according to Carl Jung. Have you ever walked into a room full of people, conversations, noise, laughter, movement, and smiling faces, and felt yourself shrinking inside? Have you ever come back home after a family gathering, a wedding, a church event, or even a casual meetup and felt like your soul has been squeezed dry? You didn't run a marathon. You didn't carry heavy weight. You didn't have a physically exhausting day. And yet, something in you feels depleted, heavy, or even strangely empty. From the perspective of Carl Jung, this exhaustion has nothing to do with physical effort. It has everything to do with the tension between your inner world and the roles you play in the outer world. Today, we're diving deep, not into the surface explanation of social battery or being introverted, but into the deeper, psychological, unconscious layers of why social interactions drain us and why certain environments feel heavier than others. By the end of this video, you will understand yourself in a completely new way. Jung believed that every individual carries two worlds inside them: the inner world of thoughts, emotions, fears, instincts, desires, and imagination, and the outer world of social expectations, roles, behaviors, and appearances. When you walk into a social setting, these two worlds collide. Your persona, the social mask you wear to fit into society, has to switch on, and your deeper self, the authentic core of who you are, often has to step aside. This alone creates exhaustion, because the persona is not you. It is a performance, a necessary performance, a socially useful performance, but still a performance. The larger the gap between who you truly are and who you feel you need to be in public, the more drained you will feel afterward. Imagine being in a gathering where you must be polite, friendly, patient, cooperative, or entertaining. Even if the people mean well, your psyche is exerting energy to keep the persona alive. If you are sensitive, intuitive, or perceptive, traits Jung associates with introverted feeling or introverted intuition, you are naturally absorbing the emotional temperature of the room. You feel people's moods, tensions, unspoken expectations, and insecurities. Your nervous system becomes a sponge, and sponges get saturated quickly. Why? Because the collective field of a group activates the collective unconscious, the ancient human tendency to harmonize with the tribe. In a group, people subconsciously regulate each other's behavior. You adjust your tone without realizing it. You change your posture. You choose your words carefully. You monitor reactions. You scan for acceptance. You avoid conflict. You engage in micro-performances of proper social behavior. All of this takes psychic energy. Jung said that people who are deeply introspective, spiritually oriented, or psychologically aware are especially prone to this. Why? Because your inner world is rich. It is active. It is alive. When you are alone, you regenerate because you return to yourself, your real self. But in a social gathering, your energy flows outward. You give pieces of your attention, empathy, awareness, and emotional attunement to everyone around you. People talk, and you feel responsible to listen. People express emotions, and you feel responsible to absorb. People expect warmth, and you offer it even when you are tired. This is not weakness. This is sensitivity, a Jungian trait associated with the deeper functions of the psyche. Sensitive people are not fragile. They are simply operating on a different psychic frequency. Their energy goes inward to process, imagine, reflect, question, and feel. So when they are forced outward, constantly, they burn through energy quickly. Another Jungian reason for social exhaustion is shadow activation. The shadow is the part of you that holds everything you suppress or deny. Your anger, boundaries, discomfort, judgments, insecurities, and your truth. In social gatherings, the shadow wakes up. Maybe you feel you're giving too much. Maybe you sense fake behavior around you. Maybe you notice tension in others. Maybe you feel unseen or misunderstood. Maybe someone triggers an unresolved emotion. The shadow whispers, "Why are you pretending? Why are you forcing yourself?" Why do you feel responsible for everyone's feelings? This internal conflict between the persona trying to be pleasant and the shadow wanting authenticity consumes enormous psychic energy. Jung explained that whenever your inner truth and outer behavior are misaligned, you experience psychological fatigue. The more sensitive you are to this mismatch, the more exhausted you will feel after a gathering. Now let's talk about complexes. Many people carry social complexes rooted in childhood. Maybe you were taught to behave perfectly in front of relatives. Maybe you were judged or compared. Maybe you were expected to entertain, stay quiet, look polite, or avoid making mistakes. When you enter social environments today, these old complexes activate automatically. You may feel subtle pressure to impress, please, or prove something without even realizing it. This emotional tension pulls energy from the unconscious and drains the conscious mind. Even positive gatherings can be draining for Jungian personalities. Happiness, excitement, and enthusiasm are still forms of energy output. Empaths especially tend to do emotional labor, regulating the room's vibe, making others feel comfortable, reading emotional cues, or supporting someone who is struggling. Jung believed that empaths use the function of introverted feeling or introverted intuition, which requires deep internal processing afterward. So the moment you leave, your psyche begins digesting everything you picked up: the conversations, the expressions, the emotions, the subtle atmospheres, and this digestion takes energy. Let's pause for engagement. Have you ever come home from a gathering and felt emotionally heavy or overstimulated, even if nothing bad happened? Comment below. Many people feel this but never talk about it. Jung also believed that some environments activate the collective shadow. In big gatherings, weddings, churches, family events, community dinners, people often wear their own personas. Everyone is performing a version of themselves. Everyone is holding something back. Everyone is managing impressions. Psychically, you can feel this. You sense the inauthenticity, even if you can't put it into words. Your nervous system recognizes the gap between what people feel and what they show. This creates a subtle tension that drains emotional energy. Jung said, when the collective dominates, the individual suffers. This means that the more a social environment demands conformity, the more your individuality retreats inward, and the more tired you become. There is also the simple fact that many people do not feel truly seen in social settings. Jung believed that humans need deep, meaningful connection to feel energized. But most gatherings offer shallow connection, polite conversations, small talk, surface-level smiles. For someone with depth, this feels empty. The soul hungers for authenticity, presence, truth, and emotional resonance, not performance. So when you spend hours in shallow waters, your psyche starves. Another layer involves overstimulation. Jung classified certain personality types, particularly intuitive and feeling-dominant types, as inwardly oriented. Their energy comes from the inner world, not the outer. For these individuals, too much noise, movement, conversation, interruption, or emotional stimuli overloads the psyche. The unconscious begins to shut down to protect itself. This shutdown feels like fatigue, withdrawal, irritability, or emotional numbness. Let's pause again for engagement. Which part of social gatherings drains you the most? Noise, people, expectations, fakeness, or emotional absorption? Share it below. Jung believed that the true cure for social exhaustion is not isolation, but authenticity. The more authentic you are, the less persona you need to maintain, the less drained you will be. When you don't pretend, you conserve energy. When you don't overextend, you stay grounded. When you stop trying to impress, you stay aligned with your true self. Authenticity is energy saving. Pretending is energy draining. Jung would say, you feel drained not because you are antisocial, but because you are carrying more psychological awareness than the environment can hold. And when environments don't match your level of depth, they exhaust you instead of fulfilling you. So the next time you walk into a social gathering, remember this: you are not weak. You are not strange. You are not difficult. You are simply someone whose soul is alive, whose inner world is rich, and whose energy is precious. Honor that. Protect that. And after you leave, let yourself return home, not just physically, but spiritually, back to the quiet place where your real self lives. Because that is where your strength is, that is where your clarity is, and that is where your energy regenerates.